Hey everyone, in this video, we'll continue looking at views in Django and we'll go over generic views. So at this point, we've talked about function views, return responses, and handling different HTTP requests. We've also talked about basic class views and how to set up the same type of view using those and the different methods available to the class in a class-based view. Now we'll combine all this together and we'll go over tools that you have available if you just need some more generic CRUD functions in your view. Of course, there's also ways to override those basic functions if you need to change certain things. But in this video, we're going to stick to just kind of the basic stuff. The documentation goes over that, but if you understand this, you should be able to update things as you need to as well, or override things as you need to as well. So with the Django Rest Framework, you don't actually have to write out all that basic functions though if you don't need to, if you don't need anything special, which you'll see later in this video. So let's go ahead and get started going over this. So you'll see here that we have our view here, this API view. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out, and we're going to create a new artist view using these generic views now. So we're going to start with a generic view that will need to go, that will use the generic API view class. And this view is going to go to the /artist URL route. And so this route will need to handle, it'll need to handle creating new artists, as well as listing out all artists. So just as you would in a typical API, going to a get request on artists will list out all of them, and then a post will go ahead and create a new artist. And in case you haven't watched the other videos, this project already has some models created. In this case, I already have an artist model created. So if you haven't already, go ahead and migrate these changes using Python 3 manage py make migrations, and then Python 3 manage.py migrates. So you can go ahead and create artist objects in the database. And of course, all this code is available in the description if you need it there. Okay, so now we have that set up. Let's go ahead and start creating this view. So just like we did before, we're going to create a class. So create a class, and we're going to call this class artist generic view. And for now, we'll just pass in just generic API view. And of course, we need to import this. So up here at the top, we're going to do from REST framework.views, import, not views, sorry, from REST framework.generics. We're using generics now, import generic API view, just like that. Okay. And now down here, we can go ahead and start creating methods in this class. And so at the very base level, this will be very similar to the previous API view, but we're just going to have a couple of extra lines here at the top. So we first need to define a query set. And this query set will tell our view what is the group of objects we want to deal with. And so in this case, we're just going to go ahead and get all of our artist objects. So we can do that with artist.objects.all. And of course, if you wanted to, you could do like a .filter and then pass in some filter in here. But in this case, we'll keep it simple and we'll do just .all. Next, we need to go ahead and tell it what serializer class we're going to use here. I haven't mentioned already, these generic views are mainly meant for creating objects from your models. So you should have a serializer for whatever model you want to use. So in this case, we already have this artist serializer created. And we did that in a previous video, so you can go watch that if you haven't seen it already. But we have that serializer ready to go. So we can go ahead and just say we want to use our artist serializer. So we can do serializer _ class equals artist serializer. And we should already have this imported up here at the top. No, we do not, I guess. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure we import that artist serializer right there. Okay. And now we have our query set defined and our serializer class defined. Now we go ahead and define what we want to do for every method. So we'll need two methods. We need to first list out our artists. So that will be a get method. So we would def get, and we'll pass in self request *args and *quargs. If you aren't familiar with these two things this is arguments and keyword arguments. This is just some special Python syntax. You can look it up if you're not familiar with it is, but it's not that important for this. Just make sure you have these arguments added as well. And they got to be in this order as well. So make sure you have everything set up correctly there, or you might get some errors. Next, we can go ahead and define the functions we want. So we could just do return, artist.objects all if we wanted to, or we can use something called mixins. So what a mixin is a special kind of multiple inheritance in Python. And what it allows us to do is add more functionality to our generic view class. So this will allow us to reuse specific functionality across multiple classes. So in the case of a get all or a create a new object, that's going to be pretty much the same. It's just going to change what model we're using. So we can inherit that basic function, the basic functionality from a mixin. So if you look in the Django docs, you'll see they have a bunch of different mixins you can use. We're going to stick to a few basic ones right here. So we'll do a from rest framework.mixins. Actually, I'll just import the whole mixin. I'll import all mixins. So we'll do import rest framework.mixins. And now we can access all different mixins available here. If you open up the documentation, you can see here the different mixins available. We have list model mixin, create, retrieve, update, destroy. So these are just our basic CRUD functions: list all, create one, retrieve one, update one, or destroy one, or delete one. So those are all the basic mixins we have available. And so we'll use those here to add in the basic functions we need. So for our generic lists view here, what we'll need is two mixins, and these will go in front of the generic API class, not behind it. So up here in front, we'll do mixins dot list model mixin, and then we'll go ahead and do a mixins dot create model mixin. And now both of these mixins have two functions on them that we want to use, or each one has one function that we want to use. So instead of our get, instead of returning this, what we can do return self.list, and then pass in request star args and star quargs. And so this list function comes from our list model mixin here. So we have that available to us by using this mixin. And the same thing goes for the posts. Instead of writing out all the logic to actually save the object ourselves, we can go ahead and instead use a mixin. So we'll do self request star args star quargs, and then there's a create mixin on our create model mixin. So we can go ahead and do a return self.create, and then we'll do request star args star quargs, just like that. And of course, this create method comes from our create model mixin. So we can just do that, and that will create and get all objects for us. Let's go ahead now and test this out. So I'll save this file here. I'm going to jump into my URLs here, and I'm going to go ahead and replace this artist view with our, what do we call it? We called it artist generic view. So I'll do artist generic view and save that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start my server and open up Insomnia, and then we'll go ahead and test this out. Okay, I have my server running, but it looks like we might have an error somewhere. So let's jump back to my views real quick. Oh, I did import REST framework. Let's change this. So this is from REST framework import mixins. Okay, sorry about that. That was just an issue there. And now our server is running fine. Okay, so now let's go and test out this artist generic view. So we should be able to create a new object, or list out all of our objects and create a new one. So let's go ahead and try that real quick. So if I go here and I do a get, it'll return an empty list because we've not created anything yet. Then we go and do a post, and I can add it in my JSON body. So here, choose JSON if it's not already selected. Inside here, I can add my different fields. So we'll do a name. This will be just test artist. Then we'll go ahead and do an email. Let's just be test@example.com. Then we'll need a bio as well. So do a bio. Let's just be test artist bio or whatever. Okay, now we'll send that. We get back a 201 created, and it gives us back our object we created. It fills in all of our fields right here. Now I go back to a get. I get rid of the body. We don't need that for a get request. I send, and now we get back one object right here. And this was the object that we just created. So this is all working great. We can create objects and we can list them all out with just a few lines of code here, much less than what we did previously trying to do all of this. This simplifies it down a lot. And so all you need is just the basic functions. This will work a lot better. And of course, up here as well, you could add the different fields. We talked about permission classes before. You can add in permissions.AllowAny or any permission class here as well if you wanted to. And it will still work the same way. Back here, do a get, and it still works just as before. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we've created one class that goes to artists. Let's create another one that goes to, I'll create a comment down here. Let's create another class so it goes to /artist / a primary key. So in this case, this will take in any integer that matches the primary key. So looking in assignment here on this ID field, we want to go to artist /1 in this case for this object. And what would we want to do here? Well, we want to go ahead and retrieve the object by ID. Let's go ahead and update the object by ID, and we'll go ahead and delete object by ID. So if you're familiar with how APIs work, this is pretty typical. We'll have one here to get and to create and list them all out, and we'll have another one that goes down by the ID to then retrieve the object at this ID, update it by the ID, or delete it on that ID. And of course, we'll use a get request for the retrieve, a put for the update, and a delete for the delete. Okay, let's go ahead and create this class. I'm going to call this class artist generic. Let's do artist detail generic view. And I'm going to go ahead and pass in a bunch of mixins here. So we'll do a mixins. And now we go by each of these things we need to do. So first we go ahead and retrieve something. So there's a retrieve model mixin to handle that. We could pass another mixin, and this will be our update model mixin. Of course, that will allow us to update the object. And then finally, we'll add another mixin here, dot destroy model mixin, and that will allow us to destroy or delete that object. Okay, and now once again, we need to go ahead and set the query set and serializer at the very least, plus anything extra we wanted. So in this case, we'll set the query set equal to artist.objects.all, and we'll set the serializer class to equal artist serializer. And we could add permissions or authentication or anything else. I'm going to go ahead and skip that for this view and to keep it as basic as possible. Next, we need our methods. So like I said earlier, retrieve will use a get. So we'll add a get first. Def get, we'll pass in self, request, *args, and ** quargs. And then we'll go ahead and return self.retrieve, pass in request, *args, and ** quargs. Okay, and once again, retrieve came from this retrieve model mixin. Next, we need to go ahead and create another method. In this case, is to update it. And so update will use put. So we'll do a def put in this case. We'll do a self request, *args, ** quargs. And then once again, we'll return self.update, request, *args, ** quargs. And that update method came from our update model mixin. Finally, we need to be able to delete the object, and that will be a delete HTTP request. So we'll do a def delete, and we'll pass in self request, *args, ** quargs, and then we'll go ahead and return self.destroy, I think it is here. Yes, destroy, passing in request, and then *args, ** quargs. Okay, and so once again, we did the same sort of thing. We set our query set and serializer, which we need to set for our generic views. Then we defined every method we need, and all we did there was bind the retrieve method from the retrieve model mixin to our get request, to the HTTP get request, and we to then return this update method to bind the update method to the put request, and the destroy method is use that to bind that to the delete method. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that, and now we can go ahead and test out this view as well. So back in our URLs, we're going to go ahead and create a new URL for this. So do a path, and this will be kind of similar, but something different we haven't talked about yet. We'll do artist / int : pk, and then the greater than sign with a trailing slash. Then we'll add views.artist detail generic view.as _ view. We'll give it a name equaling to artist detail. Okay, so what did we do here? We put this thing here at the very end. So what we're doing here by passing in this less than and greater than sign here, we're telling Django this is pretty much just a variable in our URL. So we defined it and we told it it's an integer, so it's gonna be a number. It's gonna be a primary key, which matches the ID field in our models. So you look at the response we've gotten back from our API here, the ID field, this integer right here is what we're putting into our URL. So we can define that and tell Django what that is with this line right here. Okay. Now with that done, we should be able to save that. Let's check our server real quick. Artist detail generic view. Oh, I completely forgot to pass in the actual generic view on this generic view here. So I added the mixins, but I didn't actually add the generic view. Generic API view. Okay, now let's come back here, and now we should be good. Let's go ahead and test this out in Insomnia. So open this up. Our get still works. Let's go ahead and add one more, so we have more than one object. This will be our test artist 2, I guess should be fine. Test 2, and then test artist 2 bio. Okay, we'll send that. That create okay. Now we'll do a get. And now we have 2 objects here because we're doing at /artist to get all of them. So we have 2. Now we can pass in a 1 and hit send. And now we get just our artist object with the ID of 1. And of course we could change this to 2 to get the one we just created, test artist 2. Okay, that's all working good. Let's go ahead now and put on this test artist 2 to update it. So I'll go ahead and do test artist 2 updated, bio updated. We'll send that. I forgot to add a trailing slash. You gotta have a trailing slash at the end of these routes. And there we go. It went through and now it's updated and updated. So that did update correctly. If I did a get back at test artist or just /artist, you'll see now we have our updated object right here. Okay, now let's go ahead and delete this object. So I'll go back to S2 and I'll change this to delete. We don't need a body for this. So I'll get rid of the body and we'll send the request. And it comes back with 204 no content. If we then try to do a get at this test artist /2, it gives a 404 not found because we deleted it. If I go back to just my artist and hit send there, we get just the one artist back that we didn't delete. So there we go. Now we can create, update, retrieve one object, or list out all of them from our API using just these 2 different views here. Don't have that much code. They're much more simpler than what we had before. And so that's how you use mixins within these class-based views. They go right here in front of your class, your API class, and they add different functions in for you that you can use to simplify your views down a lot. Now, this is all great and all, but we can actually simplify this down more. So what we'll do here is we'll create 2 more classes, and we're going to go ahead and redo both of these, but do them in a way that takes much less code. So in this example here, we had to create every method, but all we're doing is we're just taking this retrieve method and binding it to the get, update to the put, and destroy to the delete. That's pretty common, and so there's no reason to write that out every single time. We can use a generic view that will do that for us. So what we'll do here, I'll create a new class. I'll call this artist view, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in list create API view. And if you look in the documentation, we can take a look at these generic views. So list create is used for read-write endpoints for a collection of model instances. So it provides us a get and a post method, and it extends generic API view, list model mixin, and create model mixin. So we take a look at this view we created earlier. What did we inherit from? List model mixin, create model mixin, and generic API view. So this list create API view is doing all of that for us. So what that pretty much does for us is it takes away all of this code. All this code is no longer necessary. All we need to do is set this code up here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a query set once again. Query set equals artist.objects.all, and then we'll do a serializer class equaling artist serializer. And we could stop there. We could also add our permission classes if you wanted to. I'll go ahead here just for fun. So we'll do a permissions.AllowAny, and that's all we need. We don't need anything else. So I'll save that. And now we'll do the same thing for this artist detail generic view. So looking at our API here, our API docs here, I should say, we have a retrieve, update, destroy API view. And what does this do? It provides a get, put, patch, and delete. We didn't talk about patch. We're not going to worry about that. But it inherits from generic API view, retrieve model mixin, update model mixin, and destroy model mixin. So this right here is doing exactly what we did right here. So this will replace all of this code. Let's go ahead and create that class now. So I'll do a class, artist, detail, view, and we'll do a retrieve, update, destroy, API view. Once again, we need to set a query set. We'll set this to artist.objects.all, and we'll set a serializer class as well. This will be artist serializer. And we could add more different fields to customize other stuff as well, but we're not going to worry about that here. Now, before I forget, let's make sure we import both of these two things. So up here at the top, from generic, we'll add in list, create API view, and retrieve, update, destroy API view. Let's check our terminal here. It looks like I might have forgot something down here. Yes, I forgot to put the colon at the end of this line. Make sure we have that right there. We'll save that. What did we do wrong there? I misspelled destroy. Retrieve, update, destroy. Make sure you have an S there. And I probably misspelled it down here as well. Retrieve, update, destroy. Yeah, okay, there we go. And there we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test out these views. So we'll go to our URLs and we'll replace both of the views here with the new views. So we'll do artist view and then artist detail view instead of generic view. And that will use our new classes. We go back to Insomnia. I can then do a get artist. It still works. It gives us our one artist. I can then post to create a new one. We'll add a JSON body. Let's add a artist 3 since we deleted artist 2. And we'll do artist or test 3. Send that. Now we created a third object here with the ID of 3. We can go ahead now and get a single object. So I can get this object at ID of 3 by passing in a 3 to our URL. And there you go. And now we get back just that one object. I can go ahead and do a post or a put to update it. So let's get rid of this updated text on all of this. So we'll get rid of that and we'll get rid of this. And I can call a put request there and now updated it for us. Let's go ahead now and do a get all. And there's our third one that's been updated to just say test artist 3. Now let's go ahead and delete this test artist 3. So do delete artist /3 with a trailing slash. We don't need a JSON body. And we'll go ahead and hit send there. 204 no content. We do a get at just artist. You'll see just our one object again. Okay, perfect. And that all works just like it should. So now we've been able to create, update, read, retrieve, list all of our objects, all this sort of stuff. And all it took was all of this code right here. So it really simplifies things down. So hopefully that helps you understand how to use these views. You can work your way up from here. This is the most generic. This has more custom stuff. This has more custom stuff. To get up here to this artist view, up to this function view here, we had to add in all of this stuff here. We had to do if statements to check different methods. You can see how down here it gets much cleaner and much less lines of code. So you can find what you need based on how much custom logic you need. If you don't need any custom logic, this will work fine. If you need more custom stuff, you could use one of these up here. So hopefully that gives you some different options of how to create your views based on what you need. In a future video, we'll go over view sets, and that will take this even further, and we'll be able to combine these two together. But for now, we'll stop here. So all the code will be in the description below, as well as links to the docs. Hopefully you found this useful, and I hope to see you in the next video.